Welcome back to Born Curious, a new podcast from Harvard Radcliffe Institute. I'm your co-host, Eva-Lisa Strada.
And I'm Heather Min.
We're mixing it up a little bit today and bringing you some highlights from an invitation-only event organized by Brittany White this past spring. Britt was a joint visiting practitioner at Radcliffe and Harvard Law School, and she is also an organizing fellow at the Institute to End Mass Incarceration and a voice for formerly incarcerated Black women.
The event was organized for Harvard students from Radcliffe's Law, Education, and Justice program and young people who are involved with the Massachusetts Department of Youth Services. Radcliffe's Law, Education, and Justice initiative was created by our dean, Tamiko Brown-Nagin, to support the rights of incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people and to call attention to the devastating impact of mass incarceration in our country.
It was an incredible event. Lots of the kids invited didn't even know who would be speaking. And then out walks Meek Mill, an American rapper with a huge following who also happens to be a powerful voice for parole and probation reform. He co-founded the advocacy group Reform Alliance with several partners, one of them Jay-Z, with whom he's worked on music.
The panel also included Wallo, who spent 20 years in prison and is now a successful podcaster, influencer, and speaker on prison reform, and Ayana Bean, a Boston native who served federal time and now works as an advocate for at-risk women.
Now, when Meek Mill co-founded Reform about 5 years ago, a little after his release from prison, the organization targeted probation and parole reform. Their research showed that nearly 44% of people released from prison nationwide ended up returning in less than a year.
Meek himself was sentenced up to 4 years on a technical parole violation in 2017 and was not released until the popular #FreeMeekMill movement called for change. Let's dive in.
What up? My name is Brittany White. I go by Britt. I am the visiting practitioner in residence between the Institute to End Mass Incarceration at the Harvard Law School and here a 2022 proud fellow. I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio, grew up in Dallas, Texas. In 2009, I caught a trafficking charge in the state of Alabama. A lot of my community organizing work is about the experience of a woman who's been incarcerated in the deep red South, and I'm super happy to be here with you all.
I go by the name of Meek Mill, a young kid from Philadelphia. Y'all know my story, kinda, if you don't. A young kid, grew up in a single-parent home. My environment led me to growing up in the streets till I was about 18 years old. When I was 18 years old, 19, I ended up catching a case, which I was carrying a firearm in Philadelphia in an environment where murder amongst Black people was like normal on a daily basis. And at that age, I felt like I needed to carry a firearm in the neighborhood where my dad was murdered at. Being as though carrying that firearm, I got charged with a few other charges, and it was pointing a firearm at a police officer, which I would never do. I'm not suicidal. I never had plans of ever trying to hurt a public official or anybody in the world, especially a cop at that severity, which we know like a young Black person would probably lose their life trying to pull a gun out on a cop. Selling cocaine, I always made, just as a 16-year-old, with my mom being at work and my dad in the graveyard, I always just made a conscious decision that I didn't want to sell crack cocaine, but I got arrested with weed on me and I still got found guilty of selling crack cocaine to an undercover cop, which I never did, which was never a part of. Through my times of from 18 to 31, I was on probation. I spent 3-4 years in jail, in and out of prison from technical violations. And when she sentenced me to 2 to 4 years, I had people in America stand up for me. And of course, I came up with a foundation, me, Michael Rubin, Jay-Z, a few others. And we came up with Reform, which led us to being here at Harvard today, which is a big honor of myself to be in this building amongst you guys today.
It's an honor to have you. So I just want to open it up. Wallo, is it cool if I start with you? You hear so many people talk from this perspective here at Harvard as academics about the law, and we often center law enforcement and lawyers when we talk about experiences with the legal system. But I remember back in 2009 when I struck a jury and went to trial, it was one of the hardest things I did in my life. And every single person who loved me told me, bruh, just take the plea. And I decided to go and strike that jury, and I lost. But I just wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what is that monkey on your back like when you're contending with the government and fighting for freedom?
It was, me, I first got into the system June 30th, 1990. I was 11 years old for a couple days, and I got arrested for armed robbery in Philadelphia County. And it wasn't that hard for me coming in the game early because I got so institutionalized that I was just used to it. I was like a time machine. So I'd go in there and just take a deal, make mercy of the court most of the time. I'd be like, come on, Ayana, get my time so I go back out there and get busy again. So my outlook was a little different than most people. I only went to one jury trial in my life. I probably got locked up like 12, 15 times. So I went to one, or any other time, I'm pleading guilty. Before we even get to that phase, I had my whole spiel together. I don't want to waste the taxpayers' money, Yana, boom, boom, boom. And they give me a little leniency, and I get a deal, and so I never was the one to try to fight, because everything I got locked up for, I know I'd done. Like I was dude that done my stuff, you know what I mean? There's a lot of people that's innocent, I just wasn't one of them, So I never had to fight or figure it out or what I wanted to do. I'm like, I'm gonna just get this time and come back again.
Can you describe that violation of just knowing that someone has the capability to take away your freedom?
It's the reality here, man. To me, the criminal justice system is a business. And, either you're gonna be a part of it or you're not. And you gotta respect that. America is big business, jails. And that's why rehabilitation is serious, because you really gotta be on your own game going into some of these institutions, because like with me, like I always say, when I was in jail, I wasn't in jail, I was in Yale. I wasn't in prison, I was in Princeton. I wasn't in state pen, I was in Penn State. I had to educate myself to be able to bounce back. You dig what I'm saying? So it was like, at the end of the day, I think it first started with accountability, and then it started with you don't even want to be a part of the system, because the system is designed for the comeback. Because what business in America that don't want their customers to return? So I'm not looking at the system like, oh, they this, that, and that. I'm looking at it like, okay, I know how you gonna help me out when there's 500 of us on the cell block and we only got 2 counselors. So I know it's not designed for me really to learn unless I tap into myself. And I was able to tap into myself and say, you know what, I'm done with that. And I woke up and realized that that the world was bigger than the hood and the mentality that we was running off. Because a lot of these young cats get misled because we tell them that the streets is cool and all that is cool, but nobody talk about when you're in jail, you got 3 years in and got 17 to go. Because I got sentenced to 19 and a half to 52 years when I was 17, certified as adult for 2 armed robberies, 2 firearm convictions. So, a lot of stuff, like me and Meek talk about it all the time, man. Like, accountability changed the game. And once you get to a certain age, the system ain't for you, you gotta go a different route,
Ayana, can I direct the same question to you? Can you describe, particularly from the unique experience of a woman, what is it like to contend with the government for your freedom, or to know that somebody has the power to take away your freedom?
Well, one of the things is that, and as Wallo just said, you don't contend with the government, Being a person who has experienced a state prison sentence and also a federal prison sentence, I would like to say that, when you see your documentation, it says the United States versus Ayana Bean. And it's like, oh, the whole world is against me. So if the whole world is against you, then who's for you, and how can you fight that? You can't, no matter how much money you have, or else Meek wouldn't be sitting there. He could have fought his case too, right? But you can't buy your freedom that way. The world's against you.
Appreciate it. Meek, can I direct the same question to you?
From 1st grade to kindergarten to the 4th grade, I used to be a straight honor roll student. My dad died probably when I was like 5, 6 years old. I read a book in prison. It was called The 4th Grade Failure Syndrome. I don't know if anybody ever read that, but it's about young kids that grow up in bad environments, and when they make it to the 4th grade, their life just spiral out of control. When I read that book, I thought about my life, and when I got to the 4th grade, I moved from a neighborhood that was, it was still hood, but I moved to a hyper violent neighborhood after that. And once I moved to that neighborhood, you know, I kind of fell off from school. My classroom was more disruptive, more, I would say, more bullies in the classroom, and it kind of made me adapt to that environment. From middle school to high school, by the time I turned 16 and 17 in Philadelphia, if you check the records, 2004, 2005, we got one of the highest murder rates in Philadelphia. So, you know, carrying a gun was like the best decision for me as a young kid because my father was killed in this area. A lot of my friends and things were killed in that area. You know, I went straight from just honor roll student to disruptive classroom to you might lose your life tonight when you come outside. So me coming outside to that led me to using marijuana, smoking weed at night, really. And I would say I've always been a guy that I wanted to live my whole life without using drugs. I'm based off of being sharp. I make music. I like to flow good. I like to remember my lines. I like to be on point. So I never was like a person that wanted to pursue the life of being high. But being caught up in the ghetto and seeing people die and going in and out of prison as a young person, it made me become somebody else. But as soon as the moment I got environment changed through music, you know, it changed my life. But I would say my monkey on the back, I'm 18 years old. I got a case for selling weed. Really, I was supposed to have a case for selling weed and a gun, which I was able to do the time for that. I made a decision, a conscious decision as a 17, 18-year-old. Going into prison, I got 30 charges. I don't understand any other charges. When I got to prison, when I got to the police station to talk to the judge about the bail hearing, you can't even speak for yourself. You know, just as an 18-year-old kid, I just thought that was kind of like super unfair to anybody who was innocent until proven guilty, and it was just common sense. When I made it to the prison, I got lost in the system, just an 18-year-old kid. You got 10 minutes to contact your lawyer, your mom, whoever you can. And then, you know, when I came home from prison, they charged me with 30 charges. Now, you know, a public defender, I don't know if y'all know the backgrounds of the system, a public defender, they'll tell you that a public defender probably will lead you down a railroad to make you lose your freedom or lose your life. I came right back out to selling marijuana again because I had to get a lawyer to actually fight these 30 charges that I really didn't commit. I was supposed to have 2 or 3 charges. Now I'm in prison at 19, 18 with a $160,000 bail. That was a monkey. The system knew that I'm from a public housing environment. They have evaluations to know the type of background I come from, that I can't pay $160K bail. When I actually went to trial, I probably talked to my lawyer 2 times, a 15-minute stand within 3 years. There's no way he could be prepared to fight my trial or fight my case. I don't even know this guy. Of course, he knows I'm uneducated. He knows I'm illiterate. He knows I doesn't know the secret language that he knows. And I couldn't even direct this guy to even attempt to fight a case for me. I went straight in the courtroom, lost everything, and that guy that was my lawyer, I never spoke to that guy again, and that was the rest of my life that I had to figure out through the system. So I would say the biggest monkey on my back was just even entering something as treacherous as an 18-year-old kid trying to figure out how do I get out of this and not losing my value in myself and not committing to that lifestyle.
Yo. I'm gonna just put some air on that for a minute because that's really profound. And you know, Meek, I just have so much love and respect for you because it was hard for me to fight my case privately and come back as a regular Jane Doe. You know, for you to do that publicly under the scrutiny and opinion of the whole world to see, I just can't imagine.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was worse in the dark. When I was going through this stuff and nobody heard anything I was going through, it was like, it was the worst. But when I knew people had an ear on what I was going through and what I had on my hands at the time, it made me feel better because I knew that like I had people that would actually speak up or say anything, not just as, and I use this for a lot of people. When you label somebody as a criminal, you can make them people lose value in themselves, knowing that you might not have a second chance. Knowing me, I had people fighting for me and wanted to become better. That judge giving me that 2-year sentence, I probably would have committed the rest of my life to just bitterness and probably involving myself with that lifestyle because I felt like my rap career was over. I probably would have lost my house. I would have lost my kids. And, you know, I would have still had some money, but that 2 years would have ruined the rest of my life. and God let me get out of that situation, even having a person with the opportunity and knowing that you can have a second or a third chance, because God give out how many chances He want, is enough to have a person value themselves to want to rehabilitate and become someone. For say, if someone calling you a felon and saying you can't get a job and you're just like an alien to us.
And you a beacon of hope because you represent possibility for so many people. Ayana, you know it was so important for me to have a woman represented on this panel. And part of that is because oftentimes men are afforded opportunities to profit, use their clout, street credibility, and have resources based off of their system, their experience in the criminal legal system. But women are often excluded from those same opportunities. Can you say why?
Well, I don't want to speak for the people who make that decision to say why, but I'll give you my thought as to why. When prisons were created, when most things are created, it's not created with the women in mind. So, we have to, there's the term, women break glass ceilings. Well, there's never that term associated with men. They don't have to break a glass ceiling. The sky is just right there. They can keep on reaching as far as they want to go. So I think that in terms of how society is alone, it's just not that it's made for us to do. So when you have someone that's able to use their street credibility or, their finesse, their environment, their network of people, it's because kind of in our urban communities, in our black and brown communities, it's made cool like you get stripes if you go to prison. That's something that is like, it makes you tough, it makes you legit. But for a woman, it's kind of like, we didn't build prisons for you to be going to prison. We didn't build this environment for you to be here or belong here, and we definitely didn't create any resources for you when you come out. So you have to create your own lane, you have to create these environments. Yeah, women get in trouble. Women make mistakes. If you take the heads of a family away, which would be the man, then the woman picks up the slack, right? And then what does she have to do? Well, she can't afford a life for herself or her children off of welfare alone. So, there's other choices and there's other decisions that people tend to make in order to actually just make ends meet most of the time. And that is a lot of women.
Ayana, I'm gonna stay with you, and then Wallo, I'm coming to you next. Once people find out I'm formerly incarcerated, they usually say one or two things. They used to say, you don't look like you've been in the system. Yeah. And then when they find out that I have a trafficking marijuana charge, they start asking me inappropriate questions, like how much you get caught with. Mm-hmm. Who was you hustling for? That was your man's work. They say they feel very entitled to the personal details of my life. And I believe if I was a man, they would never come at me like that. And so I'm just curious, as a woman who's been in the system, do you experience people being inappropriate with you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because again, I'm a woman, so they think that that's okay to do. Not to offend anyone, women are one of the most disrespected humans on earth,
and
especially black women.
You can say it, black women.
Especially black women. We come from an urban community. We're from the black and brown. So if there's anything lower than, we're there at the bottom. But it's okay, because I know who I am, and what I did is not who Ayana is. That's something that Ayana did, and it's about what I do right now.
Thank you. Wallo, Rob from Reform put me on your podcast and had me follow you a couple years ago, and it seems like every black man in my life knows who you are, and they drink their coffee and listen to your daily check-in every single day, and you are so inspiring. And I just wonder, so many people who are formerly incarcerated experience so much shame and can't be public about the fact that they've been in the system, or else they can't get housing, they can't get employed if people know these things. So how have you navigated shame on your journey, and how do you continue to do so?
Always, what's crazy? A lot of people, a lot of times they don't believe me when I tell them I was in jail. Oh, you don't look like you was in jail. I'll be like, all right, well, It's a duty of mine to tell people where I was at, because I represent the possibilities after prison. I'm out here holding it down for people that I might gonna never meet, but I'm knocking doors down and kicking doors down and showing them that is is thousands of more Wallos that if you give them a shot, they're gonna kill it. If you give them a chance to execute, and if you give them the proper opportunity, they're gonna kill it. So I'm representing that. So I always tell people where I came from. You know what I mean? Because my story is my glory. You know what I'm saying? And I gotta let them know that, just like Meek could tell you, a lot of stuff that I know, a lot of why I'm sharp and I'm on point, was a lot of old heads that don't get the opportunity to come back that's in the penitentiary that put a lot of game on me. You see what I'm saying? A lot of our elders that we lost in the community, they're in the pen, and they taught me a lot of things. So I'm never ashamed of where I was at, and I always look to tell people as much as possible, to tell people as much as possible about the journey, because that's where I come from. But before I go further, I got to give a shout out to some special folks. Now, a lot of people, they hear about reform, but I don't think they understand the importance of reform and what they do for our community. And the benefit that come from reform is giving people that chance and going to fight for people that can't fight for themselves. I'm a dude that grew up in the system. We never, listen, it wasn't even cool to talk about rights for people that was in jail, or you do the crime, you do the time. You don't got no rights. You don't mean nothing. This is gonna be on your jacket forever. But reform is kicking down doors. And I'm thankful that Meek had his situation put a light and it opened the door. We not here with reform if it wasn't for Meek getting crucified in the courtroom. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people hear about the story, but I was in there that day. And, when Mike Rubin came pull me to the side and we go to take a break, Meek sitting there, because Meek looking like, what the fuck is going on? Right. And Mike Rubin said, yo, Wallo, this is what they do in the court. Just for that Caucasian man to see how we be executed in them courtrooms, it opened his eye, because and then he get up to speak on Meek's behalf, and she looked at him like, you ain't nothing either. Right. So this started a movement that's changing lives across the country, getting legislated. Listen, think about this. When did we ever have anybody fight on the strength of the people that the world forgot about? Come on now. Think about that. So reform represents something that for me is emotional. For me is hope. For me, I just know there's some brothers and sisters and some people that never had no representation got real time, big time people caring about them now, caring about the welfare of us, caring about the struggle of us, caring about the opportunities that we supposed to have, caring about how we treated on probation and parole. And I'm saying that for me because right now I'm in a situation where as though they helping me out. You see what I'm saying? I'm on parole to October 29th, 2048.
Say that one more time, because
You see
they
what I'm saying?
missed it, Wallo.
I'm on parole to October 29th, 2048. But it ain't stopped me. But no matter that invisible cell that I'm in, I still gotta move and get busy to let them know this is what we could do under all circumstances, because we some extraordinary individuals. The whole reform staff for getting out there, touching the community, filling community, making sure people got employment, making sure people got programming that they need, and just making sure people know you ain't alone. That's very important. So, I'm just thankful for them, and I always got to give shout out to Reform, because they doing the real work that never been done in the history of life. You know what I mean? So I'm thankful to them.
Yo, that's the perfect segue. That's the perfect segue to come back to you, Meek. I want to just share a short story. So I came home September 6, 2014 on a 20-year sentence. So in the state of Alabama, they give you split sentences. You serve every day of 5 years, and then you come home and do 15 years on probation. Well, if you're in prison and you act up on that 20, they pull your split, and now you're on a straight 20. Or if you come home and you violate probation, they violate you, and now you go back on a straight 20 instead of a split. And so I came home on 15 years of probation, paying $76 every month to my probation officer to remain free. And after 3 years, my probation officer submitted me back to the state of Alabama for what's called a reconsideration. Well, when you have a split sentence, you're not under probation or parole, you're still under the jurisdiction of your judge. My judge retired while I was in prison and left me in there. So when I went for my reconsideration, I went to the judge who inherited me, who had never seen me before. And I took 2 of my mentors back to a very rural town in Alabama and went before them for my reconsideration. I thought it was gonna be easy. So I told them I didn't need any lawyer. It was gonna be a formality. My probation officer in Dallas had recommended me. We was just going through formalities. They were smarter than me and got a local lawyer. As we're sitting there, like the four of us are sitting here, and the lawyer walks up to me, Meek, and she says, I don't want to alarm you, but they're trying to hit you with a $150,000 fine at the last minute. They said it was a clerical error. And as soon as she said that, they said Brittany White, and it was my time to come before the judge. I didn't even get time to process what happened. So we get before the judge, and my prosecutor said, Ms. White has been a model probationee. We recommend that she be let off probation, except in 2010 when I was sentenced, there was a clerical error and we forgot to give her the mandatory $150,000 fine for trafficking. After she pays that, we're happy to let her go. And so we all look at the judge, I make my plea, my mentors make my plea, and the judge who never met me before let me off probation, and I was able to walk out of there because I had an army of people behind me. And I'm just so grateful for organizations like Reform because my story is not an anomaly, it exists across the country. So can you just talk a little bit more about your experience with this amazing organization and why the issue of probation is so important to you?
At Reform, we focus on the issues of probation because that's just one level. With the system, you got many levels of bail reform, probation reform, sentencing reform. Me and Michael Rubin on a visit, he took a brochure, and we sat down and just talked about what could we do to impact the system in the most largest way. Instead of going after individual cases and circumstances of what happened in cases, me and Mike came up with a model to affect a large number of people that was incarcerated or under the system in America. And we looked at probation and parole, technical violations send a lot of people back to prison. I think 25% of the whole prison population is there for technical violations. And if I can explain a technical violation to you guys, a technical violation is not committing crime. So if I'm on probation and I live in Philadelphia and I go across the Ben Franklin Bridge to New Jersey, which is 2 minutes away, I lived in Philadelphia. I moved my son to a better environment, and I moved my son to New Jersey. And just to go get my son every day or drop him off from school was a violation. Like she just said, her judge retired in the middle of her life. That's a big deal. It might not be a big deal to a judge, but that was her whole life. And probation, most probation offices around America close at 5 o'clock. So, my son, after school program, he gets out of school, daycare, 5:30. If I come in town, I live my life on the road as an artist, and I try to be a great father, but if I'm on the road for 2 weeks and I get that one day to come home, I might get it at the last minute, and it might be 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. If I can't contact my probation officer, I can't go get my son from school. But what do you think I did every day? Do you think I went to get my son from school in the middle of a violation? Yes, I went to go get my son from school every time because in my mind, I was willing to take that violation to continue to be able to father my son's life because I knew that was a common sense rule that didn't make any sense. So we took all statutes and rules amongst a board of smart people, businessmen, and people who actually care about this situation, reforming the system. And, we came up with common sense things that anything doesn't make any sense in the system. She got 20 years for marijuana, but, in America, marijuana is legal. People Snoop Dogg been smoking marijuana since I was 3 on television. I didn't know you could get 20 years for, for selling marijuana, even when I was 18 years old. I used to sell marijuana. I got locked up. If you check the record, I think it was $18 in my pocket. I was 18 years old. I got locked up with men 34 years old, 33, 28. They charged me as the commander of that whole drug operation. I just was a young, broke kid with $20 in my pocket and 4 bags of weed. So, just to be able to have an outlet, because I talk about value, because I come from felt like I wasn't valued. just having an outlet for people that's in the darkness, I think just is a big deal for our culture and all, because I talk about me, I talk about doing things like stop the violence, environmental things that lead up to being incarcerated, because there's a lot of different angles to it. I try to tap in places where I know that it's super effective, and probation was one of the ones where it affected my life. I started at 5 years of probation and ended up with 18 years of probation. She just kept adding time onto it. And you know me, I'm one of the lucky ones and I'm strong. You know, they could send me to jail 4 times, I'ma still smile. I'ma still come home and say, I'm still gonna chase my dreams. Every time I went to prison, I said I'm gonna come back 10 times harder and chase my dreams. And if anybody was following me, you see Meek Mill hot, go to jail. I beefing with Drake, it went down, go to jail, go back up. Because I used it every time as my motivation. I didn't let it bitter me out. I hope that has to be nobody else's path, but I didn't let it bitter me. And you know, we have an open way now for people. I think it gives people a chance of hope and a chance of enlightenment to know that when you get caught in the system, that's not the end of your life if you made a mistake.
All right. So I'm gonna offer everybody one last question before we open it up and take questions from the audience.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go to Ayana first. What would you like your legacy to be? What will they remember?
Well, I would like them to know, and you know, more so my family to know, because I think that that's very important to have something to follow. But I would like them to know that I fell a million times. I banged my head, like I have a big forehead, so I banged my head a lot of times.
All pretty girls do. All pretty girls got big foreheads.
That's right. But I want them to know, even though I fell a million times, I banged my head a million times, that I stood up 5 million times. And I stood tall. I'm only 5'1", but I stood 7 feet tall.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want them to know that.
Wallo, what would you like us to remember you as? What will your legacy be?
As somebody that just was really a helper of the hood, you know, just really pushing people, letting them know we got a shot, you know, never giving up, and there's always believing in, you know, who we are. I think that belief thing, like I push people to believe every morning, you know what I mean? I encourage people every day to be the best they could be, and just a person that let people know no matter what you're going, you're not what you're going through. You know, because a lot of times, I remember when they used to come in my cell, strip me down, even under them slave conditions, I knew I was a king. They got me ass naked, they stripping me. I'm like, man, let's get it done. Let's get it done. Come on. It ain't gonna stop me, you know, so I just think a lot of times we take on what we going through. Because we getting high, that don't mean you're a fiend. Because you in jail, that don't mean you're inmate. It's a mindset. My main thing be just a person that, Wallo is a person that just help people, man. And I'm gonna live forever because I'm leaving something out here. Every day I get up, I'm gonna make sure I leave something out here. Whenever I expire, I left something out here. I encouraged, I pushed, and I believed in people that the world forgot about. You know, and as long as I got that, I'm gonna live forever.
Me. What will your legacy be?
I never really said this like this too. I'm not gonna really tap on the music. What I want people to know my legacy for what you know Meek Mill for, what I would want to leave people with, that I'm just a young kid from the ghetto that decided to start working my way out of the ghetto to take care of my mom, my sister, and my grandma, because I just thought that was like a honorable person if you the young man out your house taking care of your mom and your grandma and your sister. They was the 3 women in my household. I'm an average young kid that just grew up in the environment. I got one of my friends with me in the crowd. We went to jail all our lives until they took us out of that environment. The moment we got out of that environment, we never been back to prison again. So, you know, just who I am as a black man, what I represent. You know, you might see me on talking about reform, or you might see me talking about things that don't have to do with the lifestyle I came up in. I don't like people to you know, this is like a place where God put me. You know, I got locked up. People stood up for me. We came up with reform. This is not a gimmick. This is not a clout. This is not how I power my rap career. I didn't get paid to come here today. I gotta spend money to come to this because
We grateful.
Yeah, no, I'm saying You know,
Much obliged to you, Meek.
in the industry, you know, you got a lot of music, you got a lot of PR tricks that can make people look a certain way and they might not actually be that way. Yes, I use profanity, I come from the streets, my music is not the cleanest. I don't live in a lifestyle of crime, I don't sell drugs to my community, like the stuff that I came up in my environment, I overcame that, and that's where I come from, that's not who I am. I know what that is and I know what that's about. And just be the one young person to my culture to lay out a narrative to the young black people that you could be some things like me. Like growing up, I used to want to be the guy on the corner that was going to jail because that's all we seen in our environment. All we seen was failure. So even if you almost made it big, it was still a lot. Like even back in my hood, they used to say, "What kind of car you want?" I'm like, "I want a Rolls Royce." People used to actually tell me I was crazy and make me feel bad about myself for wanting more. And me actually making it here today, I would say lead a legacy to the young people to know you could do anything and take things to the highest level. I never thought I would be in here today.
A lot of times we get in environments and we be humble. If you hear Meek rap, he gonna pop it on that rap song. He gonna let you know that he that, you know what I mean? But we never talk about this, but and I said this to him one time. We from Philadelphia. When it comes to the people that the world forgot about and the real people at the bottom, Meek is Rocky to us. Meek did the unthinkable. He wasn't supposed to make it. Everybody in his class of artists, they didn't make it. But to be able to get on this higher level and to be able to change lives, his legacy gonna live forever. It's somebody that's in jail in Illinois, Pennsylvania, somebody that got sent back in St. Louis, Kansas City. In some way, they're going to be affected by the work that Reform is doing because of Meek. So Meek, he going to play, I'm cool, you know me, but Meek is the Rocky to the hood, man.
He
And
really
that's
that guy.
Appreciate that too.
He really that guy. I just want my legacy to be that, you know, I'm from Dayton, Ohio, and I actually got my homie here, Meek, who's from the city, and you remember back in the early 90s when they barricaded the community of Five Oaks where I'm from. And I always tell people before I was ever locked up by the state, I was incarcerated in my own community in the early 90s. And people know that even as a woman, that I pop my stuff, I talk for my people, and I'm unapologetic about my power. All right, so now we have some time to take questions from the audience.
My name is Prince. I got a question for all three of y'all, because I speak for jail reform and community activism. So if you know what was the exact moment or what happened in your life when you was like, I want to help people and give back to my community, can you break that down for us and when that was or what happened for you?
Mine's when I seen people actually supporting me. I grew up in a single-parent home where you got like your mom and your sister, and that's your last support system. When I seen like thousands of people actually rallying for me, I made my mind up that like I'm based off of loyalty to my programming, that I'm gonna make sure I pay those people back with the same energy they gave me.
My moment was after I was released from federal prison in 2014. I probably like the 100th job that did a Corey background check, and I couldn't get another job. I was like, I have to do something about this. So it was depressing. You know, I have a condition that I have to have a job, right? But I have a Corey, so where do you want me to go work? That I can afford to pay my restitution and live in the city of Boston. You know, that would have been
I started putting in major work as soon as I came out of the prison because I seen too many dudes that was supposed to be the old heads running with the young boys and not giving no game, and everybody was afraid to speak truth to the young boys. When I always believe in you can't teach what you don't know, you can't lead where you don't go. So I made sure I gave it to the youngins from the chest. If you know my work, I tell them exactly what it is, whether they like it or not. So I knew that was my duty and that was my position from our community, and I just started giving it to them straight through the gram, straight in person, and that's what happened as soon as I came out of prison.
Good luck.
Over here, name and question, please, quickly.
What's good, y'all? My name is Michael. I'm from Jersey, Newark. I really like what Reform's doing because I feel like y'all really tackling the system. What else you guys think you could tackle that's a part of the system that brings Black people down? Like what systematic issues you think we're possible to tackle?
The way this game go, we got to focus on tackling what we tackling right now. See, a lot of times things go crazy because we be octopus, we be all over the place. But reform can't do everything. You see what I'm saying? You might got to tap into other organizations. You know, reform got an area of concentration right now that they focusing on. So we got to focus on that and get that locked in before we could jump over. There's many issues we could talk about. Everybody got a different issue that they fighting within the community, but they're doing something and they good at what they doing. You see what I'm saying? You got to know your strength and respect your weakness, know your strength and align with your weakness. They know their strength and they sticking to that until we get to a certain place. You think what I'm saying? Big Rob gonna make sure you get, you know.
Yeah. I'll
that
just
info.
also say quickly, before we hear directly from the CEO to answer your question, reform is part of a larger movement, which is the formerly incarcerated movement. And you have people in this room who are tackling different parts. To Wallo's point, everybody has a lane. Probation and parole is one area, and part of the problem is too many people trying to do too much that they're not excelling at anything. And so we want people to stay in their lane and be excellent at what they do. And other folks like the Stacey Bordens, the Armands, the Nobles in the room to be in their lane, doing their work and being excellent. And that way we can tackle the problem holistically.
So I really appreciate the question. Reform is focused on probation and parole. But when I started the organization 2 years ago, Meek, myself, and Ruben were together. We were going to Virginia because a piece of legislation was just passed, and we were going for the signing ceremony. And Meek, I don't know if you remember this question, but you raised it like, okay, what happens when someone leaves the system? What else? Like besides ending their probation, what else can we do? And I felt charged as I was a new CEO. I felt charged by that question. We can't just send people back to the communities that they came from and expect, you know, all of a sudden things to change unless we are a part of it. And so at Reform, what we did is we built out an economic pathways program. So we go city to city, hopefully in partnership with NBA teams, because we want this to be a big deal. And we do large-scale job fairs for people impacted by the system, for people exiting the system to get people jobs, right? Because we know that jobs, housing, and supportive services is what people need when they leave. And so we want to do our part as an extension of probation and parole reform to get people jobs so they can be on their way to provide for their families and their communities. So that's an additional piece that we're doing in addition to probation and parole.
My man right here, your name and your question, please.
Yes, my name's Truth. Yeah, so I'm formerly incarcerated. I've been out about 6 months. I'm on life parole, just got out after serving 16 years. And I was watching a lot of what you all were doing with the Reform Alliance, and it was beautiful to see while I was in there, very encouraged. I started a storytelling project called Explanations from Exile. And what it highlights is violence, right? So 2/3 of the state prison populace nationally is incarcerated for violent crime, right? So we talk about decarceration and we talk about ending mass incarceration. I'm curious, like, what efforts, if any, that you all are dealing with to address violence at the front end of prosecution to ensure that, you know, we're not overcharging and over-sentencing people, the vast majority of the state prison populace.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. And I've been doing this work for 25 years. And so about 20 of those 25 was working on sentencing reform, right? So I could kind of talk to you about campaigns, Proposition 57 in California that I worked on that addressed violence. But reform is uniquely focused on probation and parole. That's our lane. That's what we do. And there are organizations all across this country, like the one I used to work for, that are taking on the question of violence. Where we do weigh in on it, though, is on parole boards. Who's on the parole boards? What's the makeup of the parole boards? What's the decision-making process of people on the parole boards? And how are people supported once they are on parole? So we weigh into those conversations, and that directly speaks to the violence question.
Me, I'm working with all the sports teams from I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I seen yesterday the Sixers just announced something that they combating gun violence in Philly. I was talking to Robert Kraft about that. We took a trip to Poland. He just wanted me to learn about his background and things that he cared about with his culture. My background, when it was time for him to stand up for me, you know, he ain't just stand up for me and put his neck out on the line for a random person. Through time, he always learned about my background and everything I had going on. So, you know, I try to use powerful resources and take people that don't come from my background and educate them about our upbringing and get them and invest in things to try to combat violence and stuff like that in Philadelphia, because that's where I actually experienced it and I know about it at.
Hello, I'm Sky Brooks. I'm from North Philadelphia. Hello. Your stories really resonated with me because it's not unusual to, you know, hear about a cousin that's gone away for 10 years and like you won't speak to them probably again, or like hear about family members that's coming back from serving 27 years in prison. And like this is very normal in the city. I'm wondering how can, specifically young people in Philadelphia, how can we get involved? Because there was that moment where, you know, the Sixers was throwing the free Meek shirts in the crowd and we all repping our free Meek shirts. But I wonder how can I take that a step further? How can I organize people at my old high school and people within the city, young people, to really get involved and care about this when it is so normal?
Just do it. Okay. See, the young people, y'all the owners of tomorrow. Y'all dictate the pace. Y'all know the technology. Y'all know how to organize. Y'all know how to put it together onto technology. I just think it's about just putting a team together, people that care just like you, and going to the communities that you feel as though is affected the most, and just lending a hand, being there, you know, just being visible, and be willing to work. I don't think you need no permission. You don't need no permission, and sometimes you don't even need the financing. You just need to be there, and everything will come in line when you putting in the work. See, nothing work but work. When you see the work, the finances gonna come, the support gonna come, the celebrity backing gonna come, all that stuff come. But sometimes people got to just put the work in, because there's so many people talking about something I want to do, but the people that do is going to get the support, and it's going to materialize into something, and it's going to create the change in the community because you're doing. So, little sister, all you got to do is give us a couple of your friends that believe in it, start doing, get some graphics done, create a website, get y'all mission statement together, and go out there and execute, and everything going to come, because now you had the power to put the pressures on the corporations in that community that's making all that money, the politicians. You could put the pressure on them when you got action and you got proof of concept. You just got to do it.
All right, y'all, I'm running low on time.
All right, my name's A1 Mook. I'm an artist out of Boston. I just want to ask, as like black men and women, we make it look easy when we go through our ups and downs. And I want to know, like, what made y'all like y'all drive to keep going and like feel like I couldn't make it out of wherever I go through, you know? Like, what made you like put your foot down, like?
I don't really know. I can't really tell you. I would say a teaching from my mom and a drive from God. Just always in the hood. If I'm around 10 guys, I'm gonna be in the top 3 guys that's like the leaders. I'm gonna be a choice maker. I was always programmed to go with your move, go with you know, no matter what. The system was like a hurdle for me. I was taught when you face hurdles, you go 10 times harder. You don't sit back and cry about it, because crying don't really get nothing done. You know, you try to fix the situation, and that was just my teaching. I don't know if I learned it from my mom or it was just a God-given talent, but my drive, I would say, always make me want to work harder when I take a loss, per se.
All right, over here.
So thank you for this panel. My name is Stacy Borden. I am the executive director and founder of New Beginnings Reentry Services, formerly incarcerated woman, first black woman to have this reentry program in our community. I'm not quite sure what the question is, but I have to say, I mean, we have a progressive DA, Rachel Rollins, in our audience, and without the hope and the strength of her hearing us, hearing the movement, hearing the parts of our incarcerated people who are serving natural life sentences. We have people federal level just serving marijuana sentences for life. We know that. We have women like we brought Angie Jefferson home after 31 years from her discriminatory practices that we've been doing for the past decades. I think the question is, what is your look on ending LWOP? Or do you all do the work with some of our progressive district attorneys or any of our policymakers who continue to discard us and not make the right policies?
And so LWOP, for people who don't know, is life without the possibility of parole. And I appreciate that, Stacey, because as a formerly incarcerated person, you know, oftentimes we're addressed through hierarchy, with people who have nonviolent crimes being the most palatable for change. But many of us understand when you go behind the wall, you survive through community. If I got a sausage and you got a soup, now we got dinner, and those are often people who don't have a pathway home. And I feel that charge and responsibility to lift up people like my sister Bianca Irby in the state of Alabama, who's been put off for the possibility of parole 5 years, the maximum, at least 3 times, and say explicitly that we have people who do not have a pathway home who deserve to come home. And I absolutely agree with you, as it was stated before, it's going to take electing different decision makers to do that. And I think having people like this caliber of panel come and continue to educate people and place a sense of urgency around this issue will be our pathway to get there. All right.
Good to see you too, Ms. Bean.
All right, let's keep them coming quickly. Name and question, please.
Yeah, I'll be fast. What's up, cuz? I kind of know her in the middle, so I don't got to ask her anything. I know her life. But you two guys, man, Meek and Wallo, and I know this might be far-fetched. If you guys didn't go to what y'all go to as you being a motivational speaker, you being the great rapper you are, if you didn't get I don't want to call it luck either, if the blessing didn't come for you to be the rapper you are and the motivational speaker you are right now, what would you guys be doing right now, you think, in Philly?
I'd probably be dead or in jail. Me, myself, my environment, basically, coming out of just high school, you know, in suburban areas, playing basketball and football is the thing. In our area, it's like beating, you know, a extremely bad environment and making the right decisions. You could just make one bad decision in your whole life in them environments. I don't know if you come from that environment.
Would you say rap saved you?
Would
you say rap saved you?
Yeah,
the
rap
career?
saved my entire life, basically.
I'm
Me, I just give you my advice. I put it all on the line. I put all my energy into putting on the line with no plan B and just ain't look back. That actually worked for me.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome, too.
Okay, my last question is coming right here, and then we have to go to the close. I'm sorry, y'all.
I appreciate it.
Name and question.
Yeah, my name is Gene. I have a question just like, based on the title, Justice Impacted Brilliance, like you guys all like redefine the word brilliance to me. And like one thing that I'm leaving this talk with is understanding that brilliance is resilience. Like all of you guys on the panel have showed that like you've fallen and you've been able to get back up. So I'm wondering, my question basically is like, how do you define brilliance? If it is resilience or if it is another key thing, just for like a young person like me and any other young person to know how to understand brilliance in another context.
I call myself a hybrid, you know. You got people that's street smart, you got people that's smart in school, you got people like lawyers, what I was speaking on earlier, they know a secret language that I don't know, you know. They're brilliant to me in what they do, you know. But if you put me in a terrible environment, I'm brilliant in surviving. I'm brilliant in making decisions. I'm brilliant in picking a side of right. You know, these things that I can't tell you how I got it. I always wanted to be somebody that was in our community. They never taught us how good being smart was. They say get your education, but you know, it's many types of education. It's not just math, science, and social studies, you know. I stepped in the education of making great decisions and making timely decisions and doing things, going to the studio 90 days straight just to learn that talent a little bit better than the next person. So I don't know where I got it from. I just think being smart and focusing on trying to be smart in any situation to get you through most situations.
Give my brilliant panel some love, y'all.
Thank you.
We're not done. Just give me 2 more minutes. It is Harvard's absolute honor to be able to welcome such brilliant experts. We thank you for educating us, for pouring out your gifts, and just for being such a beacon of hope. Please show them some love, y'all.
Thank you guys. Too, if I could say this, just being here on this panel with you guys, I come from a background where my life was more like that of what I was telling you guys. It was more of extreme, terrible environment than this. You know, I've been on this side living this life for like 7, 8, 9 years, and things like this, coming to Harvard, having reform, being a part of foundations and giving back to my people, these are things that help me change. There's no amount of money, there's no stars or no different environments that I've been to. Things like this help me see the value in myself and helping me become a better person. I have no plans on being a politician, a perfect person. I am a rap artist, never forget that. You're never gonna see me cross the boundary line, but you're gonna see me having fun living my life. And I wanna remain that and do good for my people as much as I can. So I appreciate you guys for having me here today.
The Born Curious podcast is brought to you by Harvard Radcliffe Institute.
Thanks for joining us. You can find Born Curious wherever you listen to podcasts. And to learn more about Harvard Radcliffe Institute,
visit radcliffe.harvard.edu.